controversy or supposed controversy between anything in science and revelation. Now, all the time we keep, when it comes to science and Quran, we keep, thinking that evolution or Darwinian evolution is like the biggest problem we've ever faced since, whatever, right? Among us. Scientifically, the greatest challenge, I think, to Islam was at the beginning of the 20th century and mid-20th century. It was when there was a consensus of the physicists that the static state model is correct, that the universe has no beginning, and the universe is just a brute fact. It's just there. Einstein believed in this, so did a whole host of physicists all across the world.
No beginning.
No beginning to the universe. In fact, in his theory of general relativity, his initial form, he accounted for that the universe is just eternal. Now, what does the Quran say? Yeah, so there's a beginning. Now, if we existed at that time, 70 years ago, what would we do? Oh, let's give up now. Quran's wrong. Let's become like whatever, right? What would we do? There's a consensus amongst physicists that the universe is eternal.
In the Big Bang.
Forget that for now. What if it didn't come? What if we go back to the static state model in the future?
You have to explain philosophy of science to them and
Exactly.
explain them with science, dynamic.
Absolutely. You just go there. You just say, this doesn't, it doesn't mean an absolute truth. So what we would do is this. We would say to them, look, here is science, and here's what science can do in terms of conclusions. It can give you working models. It can give you paradigms which help you discoveries. But nothing in science is absolutely true. Nothing in science is concretely written. Things can change over time. And a simple way of remembering that is this. Imagine I am a scientist in Holland and I existed 200-300 years ago. I want to know what color swans are. It's a very simple question. I'm not asking about the beginning of the universe, which gets much more complex. I'm not asking about the beginning of life, which gets much more complex. I'm asking a very, very simple question, which is what color are swans? So I see one swan, white, another swan, white, another swan, white, another swan is drunk with white. And you get all these swans that go on, and they are all white. So my general theory is all swans are white. Excellent. Now I have that beautiful theory, and I put that on my shelf, and all of the people, zoologists or whatever, that study birds, they say, yeah, this makes sense. This is a correct theory that all swans are white. Then I travel to, say, Australia, and in Australia I come across a black swan. A black swan is a beautiful hypothesis being destroyed by an ugly fact. That swan challenges the theory that all swans are white. Now, that is also known as the problem of induction. Science is based upon taking a limited set of observations and generalizing for everything. The problem is you don't have all the data, you don't have infinite data. You have your limited observations giving rise to your general theory. Now, I want you to understand this. This is extremely important. This white swan problem, sorry, black swan problem, the problem of induction, this is actually something which is a real-life example, because European zoologists, they did actually believe all swans were white until they traveled to Australia. They did actually believe all swans were white. Now, if a simple question, very, very simple question, like what color are swans, can be challenged by a black swan, by the following induction, imagine how complex theories like the beginning of the universe and the beginning of life and the development of life, how many black swans must exist in those particular theories, and how difficult it is to actually come up with a generalization. Okay, so what I want you guys to understand is this. Science works in a way that it will give you working models, working theories, working paradigms, but it will not give you certainty. Now, next slide, please. I want you also guys to put it, to understand it from another perspective as well. Imagine you have this scatter graph. This scatter graph has some observations. Now, these observations are certain. Okay? Somebody may say to you, and this is again question time for you guys, somebody may say to you, no, science is true because, look, we've measured the size of this, the tail of this alligator, and it is this long. How is that going to change? We found this fossil, and this fossil is in this particular location. How is that going to change? That is certain. We know the shape of the earth. That's not going to change. So this is certain. So science is certain. Not the whole picture.
So you can say that the premise is true, but the conclusion.
So science is certain.
No, so for example, the measurements you make with touch or the tail of the swan, that's something that you've measured. It's something that is certain, and that's a premise that is certain, but the logical consequence that follows after that to say that, so you see the 1,000 swans, right? That's certain. But the conclusion that all swans are white, that's a loop that you make. That's what isn't certain.
Excellent. These observations are, no one's challenging that particular observation. But science is not just observations. Okay? If I use observations and I come up with a theory, that doesn't necessarily mean that's science. I could, for example, look at the star alignment, and then I could say Ibrahim is going to get married next year in May, which is astrology. I'm using observations to come up with astrology. That's not science. Science is way more than observations. And the reason why I want you guys to really understand this is because this is one of the most ridiculous contentions, yet it's used all the time. Yeah, but how can science be wrong? Because if you take this medicine, it actually works. So science must be true. Wait, how can you deny Darwin's theory? We use mobile phones, don't we? I mean, this is, you'd be very surprised. Even some supposed academics use these sort of very crude arguments. You guys understand? This is just observation.
If you would say this to a layman, you'd say, oh yeah, that's possible, and then you would go on. So I get the point, but this is academic. Don't read about the idea it's academic.
No, it's not. Because, look, you have observations. Based upon observations, you come up with a theory. And that theory is science. The observations are just observations.
So that layman doesn't know what the difference is between theory and experiment.
Yeah, but we're also assuming this layman believes that science can challenge revelation. Because that's what somebody would say that, oh, I don't believe in the Quran because how could you have the first man Adam? Darwinian evolution shows that it's not. I don't believe in the Quran because I believe in static state model, right? So we're actually there as educators. Our objective is to, number one, show that science is not certain, okay? And number two, show the difference between the public understanding and what is actually true academically, and to bridge that gap.
The point which I want to make is this example of the birds. It's not close to their living environment. It's still far from them. They will see you as an authority. If they would accept it, then they accept you as an authority. You are giving them new knowledge. And you want them to go with you, they need to accept it. They need to believe you as the reason. You see what I'm trying to
Well,
say. So
no,
instead-
I'm not really sure exactly why that would be a problem.
It's not a problem.
Because you're actually showing them that you understand science better perhaps than they do.
But that's a problem.
No, that's actually a good thing.
My experience is that that is a problem. Because you understand it better than them, so they will only listen with one ear. So you have this actually science which they use to rationalize, but the initial problem is not, of course, atheism or revelation. It's something else. It's more an emotional thing or something else. But they use this atheism or this science thing to cover it. And if you would say, okay, I am understanding science more than you, they're gone with 10 minutes.
Look, we're not there to belittle them. We're not there to do. All we're there to do is this. They say something like this. I can't believe, in the Quran or this or that because of this. And you're simply showing them that's not really a rational belief to have. Now, whether they like it or they don't like it, well, that's neither here or there. Who cares? We're not there to, we're just there to speak to people like the truth. They may like it, they may not like it. Okay. Also, the other thing which is important is the same observations can give rise to different theories. And as you guys are going to see, the observations of biology give rise to theories other than Darwinian evolution. This is also very important to understand. Okay? Remember that the philosophy of science teaches us that no scientific conclusion can be absolute. Next slide, please. Okay, terms of engagement. Whoever I speak about in the rest of this presentation are not going to be people who believe in intelligent design or creationism. They're going to be mainstream secular academics, and it's going to be from peer-reviewed journals, and everything used here is mainstream. Next slide. And Darwin's theory is a valid scientific model theory comparison. This is very important to understand, because I'm not challenging Darwin's theory scientifically. Darwin's theory is a valid scientific theory. All we're doing is showing people science is not the same thing as truth. It's like this. I decide one day, right, or what is this like? Can I open it from this end, right? And that brother says to me, bro, you're not being scientific. That's not how you do it. We use the word scientific the same as rational, the same as truth, the same as commonsensical. We need to show, look, the word scientific doesn't mean everything. It doesn't mean, science doesn't mean truth, doesn't mean rational, doesn't mean everything. It's just a particular method to find out about how the world, it's an attempt to find out how the world functions. Okay, I wanted to bring up this image because this is the most iconic image of Darwinian evolution. It is as iconic as cheese for Holland. It's a way of representing the basis of the essence of the theory. Now, this particular image is everywhere. In fact, if you are to look at atheist websites or websites about Darwin's theory or whatever, you're bound to get into this image. This image is one of the most ingrained images in the human psyche. Why I wanted to share this image in the beginning is to show you guys the difference between the popular understanding and the academic understanding of Darwin's theory, because this image is false according to the proponents of Darwinian evolution, academically. Why? Well, they say we have a common ancestor. Let me explain some of the academic problems with this. Number one, Darwin's theory doesn't work in a progressive way. Things aren't getting better over time. In fact, the best and the most successful organism from a Darwinian perspective is the bacteria. because it's the oldest, and bacteria can survive inside of us, outside of us, inside the earth, in the sea. It can survive even at the outer atmosphere and even inside radioactive waste. And also recently, they have discovered bacteria that learn to digest plastic. And of all places, they found it in Pakistan. Quite funny.